There is a person who does everything right. They explain clearly. They stay calm. They choose their words carefully. They lay out the facts. They are patient. They are articulate. They are almost perfect in how they present themselves, and they still lose. Not because they were wrong, not because the other person had better arguments. They lose because every time they open their mouth to explain, they confirm one thing: that the other person's opinion of them matters more than their own certainty about themselves. That is the trap most people never see. And it's not a trap about words. It is a trap about need. This video is not going to tell you to stay silent. That is too simple. This video is going to ask the harder question, the one that actually changes you. Why do you need to be understood so badly that you cannot function without it? Because until you answer that honestly, no amount of silence will save you. You will just be a person who is quiet on the outside and still desperate on the inside. So let us start at the beginning. There are two completely different reasons a person explains themselves, and almost no one bothers to tell them apart. The first reason is clarity. You speak because information needs to move from one place to another. A surgeon explains a procedure. A manager explains a decision. A parent explains a boundary to a child. These explanations serve a purpose outside the self. They are not about protecting your image. They are about transferring what is necessary. The second reason is something else entirely. You speak because you cannot tolerate being misunderstood. The explanation is not for them. It is for you. It is your way of managing the unbearable discomfort of someone holding a wrong picture of you in their mind. Epictetus didn't say, "Stop explaining." What he understood was this: know the difference between speech that serves purpose and speech that serves fear. A person who has that clarity doesn't need a rule about silence. They already know when to speak and when to hold still. The ones who need rules about silence are the ones who haven't yet learned to tell the difference. Ask yourself right now, the last time you felt compelled to explain yourself to someone. What were you actually trying to do? Were you giving them information they needed? Or were you trying to fix how they saw you? Be honest. The answer changes everything. Now here is the part that no one wants to hear, but everyone needs to. The need to be understood. The desperate kind. The kind that makes your chest tight when someone misreads you. That didn't come from weakness. It was built into you. And it was built into you because at some point in your life, being understood wasn't optional. It was survival. When you were a child, being misunderstood had real consequences. A parent's disapproval could mean punishment. A friend's misinterpretation could mean rejection. Being labeled the wrong thing at the wrong time could cost you safety, connection, love. So your nervous system learned. Explain quickly. Correct the picture fast. Make sure they understand before the damage is done. That reflex kept you safe then. It was intelligent. It was necessary. But that was then. Carl Jung spent much of his life studying the mechanisms people use to survive difficult periods, and then carry forward long after those periods end. He called these the shadow patterns, the strategies that once protected you, but now imprison you. The reflex is still firing, but the threat is gone. And every time you rush to explain yourself to someone who does not even deserve an explanation, you're a grown adult reacting like a child in trouble. That is not a judgment. That is just what is happening. And once you see it clearly, you cannot unsee it. You start to notice the pattern everywhere. A colleague makes an offhand comment, and your stomach drops. Someone misreads a text message, and you spend 20 minutes crafting the perfect response. A family member questions your choice, and suddenly you are presenting a case like you are on trial. But there's no trial. There never was. That is the illusion. The need to be understood creates 3 specific traps, and most people walk into all 3 without realizing it. The first trap is this. Every time you explain yourself, you transfer power. You are not just offering information. You are silently announcing that this person's interpretation of you has authority over your sense of self. You are saying, your view of me is more real than my own. That is a catastrophic thing to say to someone who hasn't earned that position. The second trap is subtler. When you rush to defend yourself, you confirm that something is worth defending. Think about that carefully. A person who is genuinely secure in who they are does not scramble when accused. Their stillness is not arrogance, it is evidence. But when you react, when you stumble over your words, when you over-explain, when you send 3 follow-up messages, you signal anxiety, and anxiety signals doubt. And doubt makes their original accusation more believable, not less. You think you are correcting the record. You are actually writing it. The third trap is the one that exhausts you. The people who are determined to misunderstand you can't be convinced by explanation. They are not confused. They are committed. They need a version of you that is smaller or worse or more manageable than what you actually are. And every explanation you offer them becomes material. They will take your words, strip them of context, reshape them into evidence for the story they were already going to tell. More explanation, more material, more distortion. The only winning move in that game is not to play. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them know anything about the subject. And who knows more about you than you? So why are you letting people who have barely read the introduction of your life write the final chapter? Knowing the traps is not enough. You need to know what to replace them with. Here is the real problem underneath the need to be understood. You have been outsourcing your verdict to other people because you haven't built a strong enough court inside yourself. Think about it this way. When your internal court is functioning, when you have genuinely examined your behavior, your intentions, your choices with honesty, you don't need an external verdict. You already have one. And when someone offers a different verdict, it does not threaten you. It is just another data point you can accept or reject based on whether it is actually accurate. But when your internal court is empty or unstable, the external one rushes in to fill the space. You end up living by committee, constantly gathering opinions, reading reactions, adjusting your behavior based on the last person who weighed in on you. Marcus Aurelius didn't write Meditations to publish it. He wrote it because he needed a functioning internal court. Every night he examined himself. He asked what he had done well and what he had failed at. He was his own most demanding judge. And because of that, no one outside him held that authority. The question for you is simple. What does your internal court look like? Do you have one? Do you use it? Or do you end every day not by asking yourself how you lived, but by scrolling, checking, wondering what other people think? Start there, not with silence, not with stoic performance. Start by building something internal that is strong enough to not need constant external confirmation. What does that actually look like in practice? It looks like this. At the end of each day, before you reach for a screen or a distraction, you ask yourself 3 questions. Did I act in alignment with what I actually value today? Where did I fall short? And was that my fault or circumstance? What would I do differently if I had to live this day again? That is it. No audience, no applause, no one to validate your answers. Just you and the honest reckoning. It feels uncomfortable at first. Most people avoid it precisely because it is uncomfortable. It is far easier to seek approval from 10 other people than to sit in honest conversation with yourself. But the discomfort is the point. The internal court only becomes strong through use. And every time you sit in that discomfort, instead of running from it, you're making yourself harder to move from the outside. There is a specific technique that changes how you move through moments of accusation or attack. It is not complex, but it requires practice. When someone challenges you, when a comment lands wrong, when you feel the instinct rise to explain or defend, pull yourself out of the scene. Do not live inside the moment. Step above it. Imagine you are watching it from a distance. You are the director, not the actor. From that position, look at what is actually happening. Who is speaking? What do they need right now? What are they afraid of? What is driving the comment? Because most criticism is not about you. It is about the critic. Their discomfort with your clarity. Their resentment of your calm. Their need to shift something they are carrying onto someone who looks like they can handle it. When you are inside the scene, you cannot see this. You only feel the pressure. But when you step above it, the mechanics become obvious. Marcus Aurelius called this the view from above. It was not a philosophical idea for him. It was a daily practice. A man who commanded armies and governed an empire couldn't afford to be swept away by every current of pressure and accusation that came at him. He learned to observe first and respond second. Or not at all. This is not detachment. This is discipline. You are not removing yourself from life. You are refusing to let life remove you from yourself. Now let us talk about silence in a different way. Most people think silence means you have nothing to say, or that you are scared, or that you are guilty. And that belief keeps people talking when they should be still. But silence chosen from strength is something different entirely. It is not the absence of words. It is the decision that these particular words, in this particular moment, do not serve any purpose worth the cost. Seneca understood that most of what people fight about is not worth the energy it consumes. He was not passive. He was precise. He understood that engaging in every conflict is not strength. It is a failure of discernment. When you are no longer driven by the need to be understood, silence becomes a precision instrument. You speak when speech is useful. You hold still when stillness is more powerful. And the difference between those two is no longer controlled by fear. It is controlled by judgment. That shift changes your presence in a room. People begin to sense that you're not easily rattled, that when you do speak, it means something, that your silence is not absence, it's awareness. And that reputation, the one that comes from being unmovable in a quiet way, that is worth more than winning any argument you might have entered. There is something almost paradoxical about this. The more you feel the need to be heard, the less powerful your words become. And the more you discipline yourself to speak only when it genuinely matters, the more weight every word carries. People who talk constantly are background noise. People who are mostly quiet and then suddenly say something precise that cuts through. You stop chasing the room's attention. The room starts paying attention on its own. Here is the turning point. The thing that pulls everything together. You don't need to be understood. You need to understand yourself. Read that again slowly. Most of the hunger for external understanding is actually a displaced hunger for internal understanding. You are looking outward for something you haven't yet found inward. You want someone to see you clearly because you're not yet fully certain of what they would see. That is not a flaw. That is just where you are. But the path forward is not more explanation to more people. The path forward is more honest self-examination. Socrates didn't say, "Know thyself," as a piece of poetic wisdom. He said it as a survival instruction, because a person who truly knows themselves doesn't need an audience to confirm their existence, not a curated self-image, an actual reckoning. You will make mistakes. Own them cleanly. No decoration, no lengthy context, no self-defense packaged as transparency. Just, "I was wrong." That is enough. Your character does not live in that one moment. It lives in how you carry the moment forward. But when someone tries to take your mistake and build your entire identity around it, that's where you draw the line. When they try to stretch one act into a permanent definition of who you are, that's where you hold still. Not in anger, not in argument. In quiet, unmovable clarity. You are not what they call you. You are not the version of yourself that lives in someone else's story. You are the still point. You are the one who decides how much of the world's noise enters your interior life. And the more clearly you understand yourself, the less power anyone else's misunderstanding holds over you. There will be people who push back on this, people who test you, who try to shake your stillness, who interpret your calm as guilt or your silence as weakness. Let them. When you are no longer available for the game can't be played. When you no longer flinch at accusations, they lose their leverage. When you no longer scramble to fix their perception of you, they're left with only themselves and their own discomfort, which was never really about you in the first place. This doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop performing. The difference between those two things is enormous. Caring means you take your own integrity seriously. You examine yourself. You act in alignment with your values. You hold yourself accountable to standards that you set, not standards that shift every time a new person walks into the room with a new opinion. Performing means you shape yourself to what each audience needs in order to approve of you. It means your self-respect is a moving target, dependent on who is watching and what they want to see. One of those builds something unshakable. The other builds something that collapses the moment the approval stops coming. Being misunderstood is not a problem to be solved. It is a condition to be accepted. You will not be seen clearly by everyone, not by most people. That is not failure. That is reality. Some people are not looking at you. They are looking at what you represent to them. Their fears, their comparisons, their own unfinished business. You cannot explain your way past that. You can only stay true enough to yourself that their version of you eventually becomes obviously wrong. And when you stop spending energy on being understood, something remarkable happens. That energy does not disappear. It comes home. Your focus sharpens. Your relationships clarify. The ones built on real seeing versus the ones built on performance become obvious. Your sense of self solidifies into something that does not shake when the weather changes. You stop being a surface that reflects whoever is looking. You become something with actual depth. Roots, weight. Marcus Aurelius said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Fill your inner life with self-knowledge rather than the desperate chase for external approval. And the color that emerges is one that can't be altered by someone else's bad opinion. So here is where this ends, not with a summary, but with a question for you. There is someone in your life right now, someone you have explained yourself to more than once. more than 5 times. Someone who still does not see you the way you need them to see you. Ask yourself honestly, are you explaining yourself to them? Or are you explaining yourself to yourself? Are you still trying to convince them? Or are you trying to convince yourself that you haven't given up? Because if it is the second one, you already know what Epictetus would say. Stop entering rooms where your worth is being debated, not out of pride, not out of coldness, but because your energy belongs somewhere else. It belongs to the internal court, to the daily practice of knowing yourself well enough that no external verdict can shake you. You were never on trial. You only agreed to stand in the dock. Stop agreeing and notice what happens when you do. The energy you used to spend on managing perception, it frees up. Suddenly, you have attention for things that actually matter. Your work, your real relationships, the version of yourself you are quietly trying to become. None of that can grow when you are constantly feeding the machine of other people's opinions. It starves the moment you stop. Hold your ground. Speak when it serves something real. Stay still when it does not. And let the misunderstanding exist without your help. That is not giving up. That is finally arriving.